we find that Ethiopia received the gospel very early in church history. So I want you to go to Acts chapter 8 with me, if you will, because I love this story. And as you're turning over there, you'll want to follow along. I'll set the backdrop. Church is very early on in its history. Jesus has not too many years before ascended up into heaven. And the church is primarily a Jerusalem institution. Now, God had said He wanted them to go out through the whole world, but they kind of stayed in a holy huddle. And so God raised up a guy named Saul, who would later become Paul, the Apostle Paul. But at this time, he's Saul of Tarsus. And it says in the beginning of chapter 8 that after Saul killed Stephen, the first martyr, then he was just going crazy in Jerusalem to the fact that all of the apostles and early church leaders scattered away from Jerusalem. And many of them went to the next regions over, and a guy named Philip went to the next region north called Samaria. Now, you'll remember with me, if you've been here from our Wednesday night study in John, Samaria was a place that just a few years before nobody that was a Jew would even go except Jesus. But he went there and he met the Samaritan woman at the well, and he shared the gospel with her. And this woman at the well became a Christian, and then there was a huge revival. And it's amazing how God works, because He was setting the stage for, just a few years later, the persecution to shove this really kind of just unknown deacon named Philip. He ran off into Samaria, but Philip is known as the evangelist because he shared Jesus everywhere he went. And so it says that he landed there in Acts chapter 8, and this huge revival breaks out to the point that other apostles show up and they're praying for people to receive the Holy Spirit, and there's spiritual warfare happening. And I mean, it's going on. It's one of the coolest revivals in the early church chronicles we have in the book of Acts. But then where it gets interesting to me is in verse 26, where in the middle of this revival, right in the middle of the thing, verse 26 of Acts 8 says, "An angel of the Lord spoke to Philip, saying, 'Arise and go towards the south along the road which goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza.'" And it says expressly then, "This is the desert." Now, if it was me, I might have questioned the thing just a little bit. I mean, have you guys ever heard of the Gaza Strip? This is the same place. This is the same place that since the Philistines were after Samson, it's been a mess. I mean, it's in the desert. If you go down there, you're liable to get robbed. Here's a guy, he already got run out of his hometown of Jerusalem, and he's being faithful, sharing Jesus in Samaria, where no Jew would go just a few years before. Huge revival breaks out, and then in the middle, an angel, which not everybody in the Bible gets to see, and I haven't seen one lately, I don't know about you, shows up and tells him, "Hey, you should go down to the middle of nowhere." By the way, it's about a 2-day walk. You ought to go down there and just await further instruction. And I bring this out because when I think about this story, there's some things I love about Philip, and I try to live this out in my own life. I don't get it perfect, but Philip proves to me that when it pertains to ministry, not that it says he had any doubts, but if he did, if you're in doubt when it pertains to ministry, it's worth going and checking it out. So many of us, we have the paralysis of analysis. We feel like God said, "Hey, I think you should go do, I think God told me to go do this thing," or "I think I should go take a swing at this thing," or "I think I should go," but we can find, I don't know, did I really hear from God? I don't know, maybe I should just wait. I mean, let me put the fleece out and see if it's wet in the morning, and if it's wet, I'll see if it's dry the next day, and then maybe I can soak it with turpentine. I don't know. Let's do, and that's how we go when we think God might be leading us, because we don't want to mess up. But I'd say, hey, take a swing and miss, if you will, because really there isn't much messing up following the Lord. Now, on the flip side of that, just let me say this. When it pertains to things that maybe are questionable in my life, When God whispers to me, like, I don't think you should do that thing anymore, or see that person anymore, or be involved in this deal anymore, or if you'd give this up, I would bless you in amazing ways. When that's the case, if I'm not for sure, then I think when it pertains to things that are questionable, when I'm not for sure, don't go through that door. In my life, I've learned over and over and over, when God whispers to me, hey, I think you should go do this thing, and I don't do it, I regret it. And when he whispers to me, hey, I think this thing's a little bit questionable for you, and then I go ahead and do it, I regret it.